Welcome to the Gateway, broadcast live from United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM New Orleans. I'm your host, C.L. Thomas. Do you ever feel like the universe is against you? Tonight is a little bit of a discussion about the trials of life. Do we go through life challenges because we are under some sort of generational curse? I've heard a lot of people say that. Or does spirit sometimes use hardships as a means of getting us into shape to working with spirit in some way? It can go either way, right? I once had someone tell me a few years ago, I went through a bout of depression, and it was right after a tornado that happened at my old home in Nashville, Tennessee. Because of that tornado, I ended up moving to Las Vegas and suffered probably about 6 months worth of deep depression, trying to figure out where I fit in. I still haven't figured that part out. I'm going to be moving again across country. Stay tuned on that. By the end of the year, I project that I'm not going to be in Las Vegas anymore, but more detail on that later. But as I was going through that, I had someone tell me, it was another psychic medium that I really looked up to, and he said, you're never going to be able to help anyone else because you're going to be too fragmented. In other words, I would be too damaged to be of any use to anyone. Was he lying? What do you think? Was he wrong? There's a lot of other things that happen in my life as well. I don't believe I have a generational curse, but I've been through a lot of stuff in my lifetime. I've gone through a really crappy childhood. I've had cancer not once but twice. I've been in car wrecks. I've been through 3 major storms now in my lifetime, not including the one just a few weeks ago in Asheville. For those that don't know, I was stuck in Asheville during that hurricane that moved through. But anyway, I digress. Tonight, my guest is a metaphysician, medium, and talk show host, Linda Salvin. I'm going to get her on here. She is very well known, and I can't wait to get her to talk about this. Linda, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jill. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I was listening to you on Coast to Coast AM, and you talk about this kind of stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. What about your life, and why did you get on this path to begin with?
I didn't. They threw me into it. I didn't choose it. It was chosen for me. And you're talking about accidents. I was in a commercial airline plane crash, a Boeing 737 in February of 1981. And I slid down the ramp and had an out-of-body experience. And I was out of my body for 4 months. I became a walk-in. So spirit entered me and my old self left. If you want to know what a walk-in is, go Google it. When it all happened to me, there was no Google. This is all pre-internet. And then in 82, I got hit by a fire truck, had another out-of-body experience. In 84, I totaled a car with the white light experience. And the same voice that spoke to me coming down the ramp of the plane crash spoke again, and haven't heard it since. And when I was totaling the car, it said, "You can come with us now or stay." And I was given a message. And then when the paramedics got me out of my car, I just said, they want me off the planet, because back in the 80s, nobody talked about this, and there was no one to really connect to. My background's epidemiology, public health epidemiology, and I was on company business and just doing my thing. But I became very psychic on February 17th, 1981, not understanding it, not understanding how to use it or what. But it took me 12 years into the 90s before I embraced it, said, okay, what do you want me to do with it? So it chose me. And I look back now, 43 years later, I was initiated by the spiritual world. It's not like I went searching. They chose me for whatever reason. And through that time, becoming really psychic, I had emergency surgery in 1991 where I became a healer. And then after healing a bunch of people, I ended up having 100 tumors removed from my hips and thighs, and I became the trance medium. So everything was as a result of trauma or an accident or surgery, not that I went to study or read a book or train, because I didn't. It's all been given to me spiritually. So did I choose it? No. Is this what I would want to do out of my life? Absolutely not. However, it's become a passion, and I was the original radio psychic from 1994. I was on the air for 18 years, AM and FM. I broke ground with terrestrial radio where most people couldn't. It's open now, especially on the internet. But I was a pioneer. I was a pioneer back in 1994, and I'm very grateful for those opportunities to open the doors. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have YouTube until 2009. So I just one day said, what do you want me to do with all this? Because I denied being a psychic. I had no one to talk to. I didn't understand it. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. I was insulted. I was bashed by people. And I just started changing. And I just said, okay, God, where do you want me to go? And doors flew open. So radio, TV, books, lectures, my private practice, developing a candle magic line or whatever. And then during the years, because of all the psychic woo-woo, I decided to get my Ph.D. in metaphysics to qualify and quantify the science of my background with what was going on spiritually, because I understood the spiritual world beyond my wildest dreams of really knowing what those other dimensions are as a medium, as a healer, what God is, what the curses are, what the generations mean. I'm 70 years old now. I was 27 when that all happened. So I've got a lot of years where everybody thinks they understand. It's a real weird ride. And yes, there are curses. But every time I tell the story, there's a plane going over, kind of like God saying, here we go again. Yes, you're right. Little kind of totem never fails. And here it is in Pacific time. It's 7 p.m. and there's a plane. But it chose me. And because of the rewards I get in helping people, when they say thank you, or this happened, or I feel so much better, or I won the lawsuit, or yes, I married the guy, or whatever is happening, or communicating with somebody from the other side, and I gave them the closure and connection that they needed for the comfort, that's the gratification. Otherwise, it's a job that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, because if and a lot of the people if you get caught between the two dimensions of the physical world and the spiritual world, sometimes it's a very difficult moment to shift gears in the middle of the day. And I had that happen even today with one of my clients. I've been reading 20 years. She needed an emergency. And until I could get out of where I was to get into what she needed, it's sometimes very difficult. I apologized. It's not fun. It's sometimes interesting.
It's hard to unsee some of that stuff sometimes.
No, you have to experience it. You have to experience it.
First of all, you don't look like you're 70 at all. I would have never guessed that.
No, most people
you look
don't. Great.
Thank
you. That's the outside. The inside knows. But the thing is, what I've learned, the more spiritual we become, the more youthful we become. And people don't understand that the spiritual world can revitalize. I left the paranormal world professionally in 2018 as far as channeling and going into the real dark end. I couldn't take it anymore. I did channeling for 22 years. And when I stopped, my face changed, my body changed, my personality came back into a more humorous way, because it's heavy stuff to be talking to the dead all the time, or giving people readings all the time, or healing people. It's a lot. And then at the end of the day, I don't think anybody really cares. It's not the most rewarding, it's not like they're lining up all the time, and they're grateful for the moment.
I think it depends on who you talk to, because there are a lot of people who get a lot of benefit in healing from this line of work. Particularly if you have a client.
Yeah, my book's coming. I got tons of testimonials, boxes of testimonials. I'm grateful. But people get on with their lives, and it's not like they're whatever. I don't want to go there. But I've seen enough over 35 years as to what happens. But yeah, no, it's healing. And a lot of people, I do healing work, and I remove blocks, obstacles, negativity, and old emotions that are lodged in the cellular structure of the body, which most people do not do. I get into the organs and the tissues and the blood and the bones, and I can really find damaged emotions to set somebody free. I was given a gift. I took a schizophrenic who had 26 personalities, MPD, put her back into one personality, talking about fragmentation versus integration. And her mom flew in from Phoenix, Arizona, I believe it was, 1992, to thank me. I have it on tape somewhere. But there's some real healing that can take place depending on who's doing it, what they're looking for, what the idea of healing is. Fragmentation versus integration is a whole different state of being. I understand that fragmentation. It took me 12 years after the plane crash.
Did you have to go to somebody that goes out and finds all the fragments? Did you have to go through a process like that?
No, not at all. No, I didn't. There weren't healers and psychics. I went to one psychic about a month after the plane crash. because a friend of mine said, go see this lady. And I think it was the second time I'd ever been to a psychic. The first time I went, I thought my friend who was with me told this woman everything about me because she knew so much. And I thought, well, that's weird, because I didn't believe in psychics. I wouldn't believe in me if I hadn't lived what my story is, I wouldn't believe it. With all the near-death experiences and what's happened, wouldn't believe it, but I've lived it. Healing came through prayer, meditation, surrender, therapy, just me being willing to let go, let God. I became very spiritual, not religious, but spiritual. Can't avoid being in a plane crash and not find God. It's impossible to just walk away like, hey, that was fun, let's do it again. No. I spent months interviewing, sending letters out and questionnaires to people who were in the crash, and most of them said, please don't contact me again. There was so much trauma after that. They didn't want to hear from me. And so it was going to be part of a book to compare where we all came from, kind of like the Bridges of San Luis Rey. But as it turned out over time, I have plenty of stories to tell from the people I've worked with through the years, whether homeless, working in the White House, celebrities, everyday people, getting into radio on Los Angeles' largest FM station at the time, KBIG 104, in 1994, when they developed the radio psychic, which is where I got the title Radio Psychic. They created me and the whole format, and then it took off on different stations. And then, of course, it hit the internet. Everybody thinks they were the first one. They weren't. But it's quite a journey.
It's a long road.
Yeah.
I think you hit it right on. That's I've been involved with the paranormal now for 13 years, maybe 14, and that's one of the biggest things I'm having a problem with right now, because my journey.
Which problem? What part?
I'm a medium.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I've done a lot of like ITC research and that sort of thing, kind of exploring paranormal locations, trying to, but to me, I feel like in that world, I just did a Paracon actually and was a speaker at this thing. But I feel like as far as the paranormal, they're kind of stuck in that investigation phase where I am more, I'm more spiritual. I want to take it on a spiritual journey. And so I'm kind of heading into a different direction.
It'll happen when you're ready. It's like the spirit will guide you. Like they literally threw me out of the depths of where I went from not knowing anything to getting into it, to evolving, to diving into it, from being a psychic, then becoming a healer, then becoming a medium after all the surgeries. And then 22 years later, that's when I finally knew I was at the end of 2018. I just said no more. I went online and on my newsletters and on the radio, I said no more channeling. I will still channel once in a while, but I don't want it in me. I forget there's a name. I just did a show with a friend of mine who's also psychic, and she defines it like if somebody has sleep apnea, I didn't sleep for 3 days, or if somebody had brain tumors, I would have headaches. If somebody had stomach cancer, I would throw up before the sessions because I take on the personality. I don't want it anymore. I don't want to hear the neck cracking from a suicide hanging. I don't want to hear the car crash. I don't want it anymore. Do I pick up animals, people? I'm lucky at this point in my life and my career that I can pick and choose. Back then in the 90s, through most of the 2000s, I took everybody because I was meant to, until one day I realized it took a toll on me as a human being. Mm-hmm. And for whatever life I had left, I wanted to live it in the world that we live in, as opposed to the other world, which I know exists. Because there's a very fine line between the third and fourth dimension. And a true medium, where we used to think heaven is so many light years away, how can we just hear so quickly and communicate and give the answers and the details and then disconnect? Whether it's playing the piano or chewing gum or talking about spaghetti sauce recipes, I've heard it all. I just choose not to do it anymore. And I give people a lot of credit. The problem I have, and you may be too, which is where you're getting saturated, I think. One, it's become so mainstream. Everybody's into the paranormal. Everybody's a ghost hunter. Everybody's a psychic. Everybody's on TikTok. Everybody can read cards, right?
Right, exactly.
There's no commodity anymore. But if you're truly on the spiritual path, not just the topic of the moment path because it's cool, But if you're really into where you're supposed to be, your spiritual side's going to win and move you into the next dimension or the next chapter. And I think you're just on that precipice.
Right on that cuff.
Yeah, you are. You're being moved into something. Yeah, and it's a journey, and it's a challenge, but be ready for it.
I think for me too, a lot of the paranormal world, they're not looking at it from the spiritual aspect. They're totally missing that key. I think a lot of times these paranormal experiences happen because it's the spirit world trying to wake you up and make you
Knocking on
look,
yeah.
that this exists. But
Ghosts and paranormal activity or channeling or whatever. I mean, I'm really good friends with a talk show host who's a paranormal ghost hunter, and I've referred people to her where I don't want the entities that they have attached to them or the house that's haunted. But the beauty is I have my own solutions to heal or remove negativity through a candle magic line I created. And sometimes I would refer to her and then they do their consultation, but then they do my candles and they're healed or they're cleared or whatever. So I have a different gift than the average person out there. And I just don't fit in to the groups that have opened. I stay away. Once in a while I'll show up because I did that 20 years ago and I would feel drained, which I'm sure you do.
yes.
And if you're starting to feel the drain or you're starting to see through the facade of the conventions are fun and all the people, but once in a while, you're right. If it's not spiritually grounding or fulfilling, you're in the wrong place. So you're being guided and you will find that new niche for yourself.
Right. I have another friend who's a psychic medium, and he said the same thing. He just recently left the paranormal world, and now he's doing galleries and things like that.
Art?
No, his name is Scott Allen.
But is he galleries? What kind of galleries? Art galleries or what?
No, he does mediumship galleries.
Okay.
Mediumship galleries. But he said the paranormal world, it was just a medium for him to wake up and realize his path, so to speak. And I think that's kind of happening to me too. I do spirit art. So that's probably the direction that I'm heading in.
Good.
But you talk about the 80s when all of this first happened with you. I was just a kid in the 80s. But I was seeing ghosts at that age, like as early as I can remember.
Yeah, you were probably 4 and 5.
Yeah.
That's when it hits around those times. Mm-hmm.
But there was nobody to talk to. You're right.
No, they think you've got imaginary friends. No, because you came in reincarnated. You came in as a light worker. You came in on a higher level, and you probably didn't connect with your parents as well. Even though they were your parents, you didn't quite feel the love or that you belonged, or you go to school and you're on the outside looking in because you're from a different planet. You're not of this plane. We're not. If we're with this gift or whatever, we obviously come from the womb. However, the soul is from beyond on a different frequency. And that's part of the journey. Like you're talking about the obstacles. Why do we go through so many tests? Part of it's just life. You cannot, it's like a cage and you got to find your way through the maze, how to get to the next step. Most people are not generationally cursed. Most are not. The word has become topical like everything else. When I started talking generational curses 15 years ago, it was a whole new thing. People, what is it? What is it? Oh, I think so. And then I would talk to people, and maybe 10% of those I interviewed or had readings with really did have something from generations past, from a grandparent or a grandniece or a jealous whatever. And I could trace it and I could break it. But more people today, just like on all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, whatever, everybody's a healer. Everybody's a psychic. Everybody's throwing cards. Everybody's a medium. And it's messing a lot of people up. It is, because they don't know who to trust, and it's saturated out there.
It's absolutely saturated.
So again, if you're going to find your niche, which in the 80s, spirituality, the only real spiritual people that anybody talked about then would have been Nostradamus or Edgar Cayce, right? This is long before Miss Cleo. I was in the Psychic Friends Network infomercial in 1992 with Dionne Warwick. It was the first of its kind, and then Cleo, and then all the others, and Kenny Kingston. It became the thing to have infomercials in the 90s, and that blew over. Now it's all online psychics. But the 80s was, well, I missed it because I was struggling to get my life together. All my friends from college were getting married, having kids, raising their families, building their careers. And they all went this way. And I went out into the ozone thing, and they would think, oh, you're crazy, you know, spirituality. Oh, no, you're a Jesus freak. Or what are you talking about? I stuck to it because I have been led to help people find God. Good, orderly direction. Not Jesus, not Moses, not the everlasting light, not Buddha, not Hindu, whatever. There's 3,200 religions. There's one God, you know. And when I became super spiritual, I knew I had to follow what that meant. And it's the difference between free will and God's will. And there's a poem, CL, that I have read on my radio show for 30 years. If you don't mind, I'd like to share it with your people because they'll hear a little different bent on how I have found God. Do I think there's a Jesus?
Sure.
Yes. Did I had a Christ awakening. A cross flew out of the closet of my sister's bedroom when I was healing a week or two after I was in the hospital from the plane crash. Oh my God, now I'm a Jew for Jesus. And I threw the covers over my head because I didn't know. But then I'm in Thailand and I understood the Buddhists. Then I was in, you know, some other country and understood their religious. So it's just symbolism to get you to open up to the light. But this is a Sanskrit poem. It's on my website. It's on my YouTube. It's in my infomercial. And it says, God, are you real? Child whispered, God, speak to me. And a meadowlark sang, but the child did not hear. So the child said, God, speak to me. And a star shone brightly, but the child did not see. So the child said, God, speak to me. And the thunder rolled across the sky, but the child did not listen. So the child said, show me a miracle. And a child was born, but the child did not know. So the child said, touch me, God, show me you're real. Whereupon God reached down and touched the child, but the child brushed the butterfly away and walked away unknowingly. So it's all around us. We just forget to look, feel, see, and acknowledge the synchronicity of what the universe really is. And that's the spiritual growth, learning to become one with it as opposed to hitting the walls. It's like, I always use the reference like we're in a boxing rink, you know, and the boxers are in the middle of this rink, and you're in Vegas, so you know when they're boxing, they have the big bands around the stage or the rink or whatever. And what happens if they're thrown against it? They bounce back, right? It's that rubber thing, whatever. So we're stuck in this rink until you find the key to get out of the rink for your freedom. We're fighting within our own rink of life. We have financial, we have relationships, we have career, we have property, we have creativity, we have spirituality, we have religion, we have food, we have nutrition. I mean, it goes on and on and on like a wheel, and every spoke means something. But there's always one or two broken spokes in the wheel. And our job is to learn how to fix the wheel. So if we're fragmented, there's broken spokes. But how do you heal? That takes time, effort. And it's not always a one-time shot. You know, it's not like, okay, lay down, let's do 40 minutes. See ya, have a good life. It doesn't work that way, you know.
I like to say it's like a lifelong journey.
It
kind
is.
of thing.
From the traumas of childhood or being a young adult or opening up, or even as a child, if you saw ghosts, you were being told when you were young, here we are, and this is going to happen. And probably your parents thought you were crazy or nuts, or they wouldn't want to hear, no, go to sleep. There's nothing in your room. And then it's like, you're watching, oh, there it is, or there's my little voice. I get it. I've worked with enough people. I did not experience that as a child, but I was traumatized as a child because I witnessed two planes collide in midair, and then 24 years later, I was in a plane crash. But my grandfather had committed suicide when I was 2.5. So trauma has been around me all my life. And pain and abandonment or fear or questions or whatever. We're human. We're here to learn the lesson of love, life openly and vigorously expressed. LOVE, life openly and vigorously expressed. We have to get it out. I personally cannot tolerate going to the paranormal conventions anymore because of my empathy, my level of, and I'm not bragging, but I am on a very different frequency spiritually as a result of the NDEs. And there's one person I work with who's a doctor who we share patients and clients. When he can't fix somebody, I take it spiritually, and I know somebody needs more of him than the chiropractic physical, I'll give them his number and we share. But he also had near death, and he found me on the radio 20 years ago, and we still work together 3 times a week. We talk. But most people don't understand that we're up here when most people are here. And then there's those over here that are learning to come up. Everybody's on a different level of growth. And yet a lot of the people that I have experienced, this is my own experience in the expos, for lack of a better, or the comms, whatever they're called today. Everybody thinks they're the only one. Everybody thinks they're the most professional, that they're the greatest. And after a while, it's all about the ego, and the same words are being stated in a different form at that lecture or seminar, whatever. And after a while, it's the same old, same old, same old. You, I think, are outgrowing it because you've seen the light, per se. You're ready for more. Just watch what happens. But keep your feet on the ground while your head's out there.
It's always hard for me to stay grounded. I kind of don't like to be grounded, to be honest with you.
Well, being grounded is one thing, but staying out of your body with your soul circulating out there, picking up a bunch of stuff and not staying in your body is just going to prolong your where you're going.
It's true. That's true. So I do want to talk. I want to ask you the first out-of-body experience that you had. Can you talk about what you saw?
I was in a plane crash, Boeing 737. I had a premonition before the plane crashed, not knowing what it was. I was on company business from Southern California to San Jose with my partner. I was working for an insurance company. And my background being environmental health and epidemiology, which is study of epidemics. I have a master's in public health from the University of Michigan from 77. And here we are, February 81. And we had gone up to San Jose on Air California. It's online. You can see it now. And we were sitting in the coffee shop after packing up our equipment. We had told the hospital employees, do not open up the autoclave, which is a big machine that sterilizes equipment for surgical procedures, and doctors and nurses use when they're cutting us open. But we took a break and we went back. Somebody tampered with the autoclave, evaluated our whole purpose of being there, and we couldn't use the sampling because we were looking for ethylene oxide exposure, which can be toxic and cause illness in the hospital setting. And when we got back to the coffee shop at the terminal, we were sitting, and I'm like in this position, he's across from me, and I looked out at the hangar and I saw the plane sitting there, and I said, doesn't it look like it's going to crack there? Because I saw a fuselage or an exhaust settlement on the body of the plane that an hour later is where the plane cracked in half on the 17th aisle. We lost an engine. An engine fell off, the landing gear was stripped, and the plane cracked in half. And we were coming in for a landing at the same time another plane was taking off, and the probability of all of us surviving was 2 billion to 1. It's statistically, it's all out there. I mean, it's still, I have very yellow paged articles from different newspapers, because back then, like I said, the internet wasn't here till 96. This is 81. So the first out-of-body experience near death was once we stopped, I thought, oh my God, we're going to die. And when you're close to death and you're having an NDE, it is true that your memory seems to go, to me, it was like a like film that had been cut off a projector, and it was going so fast that everything was just going from 27 back to kindergarten or nursery school. Like my whole life just flashed between my eyes in a matter of seconds. Then when the plane finally stopped, I had my hands on my partner's arm and the stranger's arm, where I was sitting in the middle seat, got to the stairs, and I said to the stewardess, who one of them was running down the aisle saying, everybody off before it blows. And they're not supposed to panic, but we only had 90 seconds before it exploded to get 109 people off the plane. So I got to the door. I said, where are the stairs? Next thing I know, she's touching me on my shoulder, and I went down the ramp. And the ramp is like a river raft. And this loud voice said, don't do this, do. And I was given a message. And I hit my knees on the ground, and I ran, not knowing what had happened because the shock is too tremendous. And I kept running. And if you know John Wayne Airport in Orange County, the runway meets the 405 freeway. So I ended up running on the grass. We landed on the grass. We got off the pavement by the time we had stopped. And I saw the freeway traffic. I thought, what is going on? And I panned and I saw the paramedics and the ambulance and the beacons. And then I panned again and I saw the terminals and I panned again. I saw the plane on its belly on fire. I thought, oh my God, I just survived a plane crash. That's huge. Your brain doesn't know how to assimilate it. But what happened to me is my body, CL, or my spirit, this is where the walk-in came in, which I didn't understand any of it until this lady explained it. I was out of my body for 4 months. I stand 5'8", but this spiritual thing, energy, whatever you want to call it, was 50 feet above me for 4 months. So it's like a cyclops. And I took time to integrate that and come into my body. And at that time, I met this one psychic. So you're a walk-in. I said, what's in a walk-in? And she gave me a book. And she said, you're going to become a very well-known psychic. And I laughed. I said, I'm not a psychic. Well, here I am 40 years later, and I'm leaving for Dubai in 2 months to win an international award in business, not so because of what I've done metaphysically and as an entrepreneur, but I'm being acknowledged out of 250,000 nominees. I hit the top 100. So overall, 40 years of work and time is paying off in a global manner of recognition. But going through it, just like with you and anybody on the journey, it may look, oh, so easy. Oh, it's so this and that. I think the more spiritual we become, the more difficult life is, because we're actually seeing the truth of this planet. And we're the ones that can help the other people. We're the ones that see. But that near death was seeing life, hearing a voice, having something enter me that didn't exist an hour and a half prior as to who I was. And I've never been the same since. There goes that plane again. I'm in the path. I'm in the flight pattern for Burbank Airport, but I don't usually hear planes at this time of night. That was the first. And things got real big and vibrant. And then I had this cross, and then I had phone calls, and then I kept hearing things, like be at a certain place at a certain time, and I'd run into somebody or a celebrity or something opened up. It was like I was testing this thing that took over me that I never had before. And it's not just intuition. People confuse intuition with psychic abilities. That's another topic. But the second one was when I got hit by a fire truck. Here in LA, and when the truck hit my car, and then the captain got out of the car, and I was already crying, and I had, because when you're going to get hit, you brace in a car, and I braced, and I had damage to my shoulder and my arms. I had surgery 25 years later to fix all of it. But the captain said, "You okay, ma'am?" I said, "Oh yeah, sure. Last time I had a plane crash, now I'm getting hit by fire trucks." It's really funny, and I used it in comedy for a while, but the trauma and the pain and the fear that I became agoraphobic, and then I became more psychic, and then I became more in tune with this spiritual world that still scared me because there was no one to talk to. There wasn't. Therapists thought I was nuts. One day I said, "Oh, I think God put me on that plane." And God, what does God have to do with it? Nobody understood. Then the third one, which
people have to understand, for the listeners out there was no paranormal TV or anything out there.
Nothing. No, you had books. You go to the library. You could check it out. The books, just like I said, with Edgar Casey, Nostradamus, but you were considered weird. And the New Age bookstores were just coming of age. The Bodhi Tree, which was the biggest store here in LA, or some of the psychic shops. It was like going in like, wow, what is this? It was kind of weird. 82.
It's almost taboo, wasn't it? I remember going to one of those as a kid, and it was like taboo, like you were doing something bad for entering.
Or dark, or they're going to come and get you, or you're working with the devil and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
People would say, well, I can't come to you because my priest won't allow it, or you're doing the work of, you got the blood of Jesus on your hand. I said, God didn't want me to have the gift. Why'd he give it to me? Hello? I've had priests come to me. I had a rabbi come to me one time, CL, who wanted permission from me to have an affair with a woman who was in his congregation while he had a wife and 7 children. I said, "You're coming to me, Rabbi?" They're human beings with normal desires, but he wanted me, because he heard me on the radio, to give him the blessing that was okay. It's like, go cheat, do what you want. You're not in love with the radio. But it doesn't matter. But what happened in the third accident was the white light. Now, that's very different than just near death. There is a difference, but it was still a near-death experience. I was coming home in January of 84. I was working in an entertainment company, and it was a rainy night. And I remember seeing a Pinto go through the intersection. I thought, oh my God, they're going so fast. But I broadsided them. Neither of us stopped where you're supposed to stop at corners, but all the lights were out. So I think they had a head start in the intersection. I hit this Pinto. A woman broke her hip, I believe. I spun out. I said, oh God, I just want to go home. And as soon as I said that, you might get chills, a white beam went from my head into the ceiling. I had a Camaro at the time. And this loud voice said, you can come with us now or stay and do. And I was given the same message that I was given when I came down the ramp of the plane 4 years earlier. And then when the paramedics came to get me out of my car, I just said, oh, they want me off the planet. They want me off the planet, because I didn't know what was going on. Who goes through all this stuff? But it took me to a place of a higher dimension than I'd already ascended. So 81, then 82, then 84, it took me to this whole other reality that took a long time to integrate. Talk about fragmentation. I can remember vividly, and I don't talk about this very often, but when I was with the paramedics before they hauled me off to UCLA, I remember it was like a cookie cutter on the top of my head. And I saw 4 quarters: mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. I saw the sides of being. And when I called people to come get me out of the hospital, some people said, another accident, Linda? No, I can't. I'm too busy. But my boyfriend at the time got me home. But it was the beginning of more search for truth. And what am I supposed to do? I was being initiated. I didn't know it at the time because I was in the eye of the hurricane. But, 40 years down the road, after what I've done on radio, TV, and books, seminars, whatever, it all makes sense. But sometimes we're forced, like you were saying. Are we forced into some of this? Are we being guided? Are we being initiated or tested? Or are our parents and our relatives versus our spiritual family versus, whatever? It's a lot. It's hard. But if you stay true to this calling, there's some beautiful stuff that happens on top of all the pain and bashing or the insults or some people can really be nasty and rip you up for what you do. I had it last week. I got some person from the show, got my phone number and read me the write. Oh, I've been to shamans. Oh, you're supposed to work for me pro bono. I said, no, I'm not. I'll fight with these people. But the caustic words that came out of this woman had me shaking for about 15 hours until I could get rid of whatever she was trying to do to me to get me to work with her. I said, I don't want to work with you. I'm not going to work. Well, then refer me to somebody. I said, no. But there's some weird people out there, as you've seen yourself, and they start attacking us because they feel entitled or desperate or whatever. But we get to say no. We get to say no. And there's certain shows, like when you came to me, I had to feel it out, and then I said yes, because there's people, I don't want to waste my time, your time, their time, or it's not necessary, or you're not seasoned, or whatever. But I knew you were more legit. I did. I'm grateful to be at this point where I can say yes or no.
That's good. I have to say that just from the paranormal world, it's hard to get supporters from the paranormal because I am so different than they are. Like, I'm not trying to be on television as a know-it-all. And a lot of these guys, their primary focus
is fame.
Yeah,
realistically. Well, look at Diddy. Look at Diddy.
Time.
Look where the fame got him. Yeah, everybody wants to be the next ghost hunter and the next medium or the next whatever. They pick and choose those that get the TV slots and all that. But if they're just going after it because of recognition only versus the passion or purpose of really helping, enlightening somebody, they'll get close to it and then it doesn't quite happen. Or the door is open and then they find out, oh, this isn't what I want. It's not what it looked like. I've been on both. I've been on TV a dozen times. I've been in movies. I am written up in people's books who were clients of mine and they wrote books about my work and helping them or whatever. I've experienced it. It's like any other job. And once you're there, there's an ego thing that happens. And then you're done shooting, you go home, and it's not like they're sitting there waiting for more. It's like, okay, you're done. It's a job. When you become more spiritual, you see beyond the illusion. And I think that's what's happening with the shift we're going through, breaking down our, oh gosh, I just said this. What's the word? Like our fascination with celebrities and what it looks like out there. Because now look what's hitting the news, and it's not all pretty, and it's not all fun and games. And people who had billions are now like in jail, and with nothing.
Yeah.
So there's a fine line, and the spiritual people are going to win this spiritual war that we're in right now on the planet. And it was predicted by Nostradamus. It was predicted by Edgar Cayce, this spiritual war among people, the division among us, racially, religiously, social economic class. It's insane, but it's almost like shaking it up, like, people get a grip. What's really going on? What's really important out there? No, it's not about religion. It's bigger. But people don't understand the difference between religion and spirituality yet. Mm-hmm. They don't. You will get out of this maze that you're in because you paid your dues. That's why it's kind of like, you have a jacket and all of a sudden it doesn't fit right. You're outgrowing it. So you're going to get a new jacket, but you'll be in a different element. And yeah, you see through the people that need to be on top. And yet, if you really look in their eyes, a lot of times they're dark, or there's no real light, or you try to feel their spirit, their commitment, their intention. And sometimes it's just,
there's nothing there.
Oh, yeah, it's blank. It's like flatlining.
But see, even the paracons that I've been to, I've attended a lot of the different talks and things that people put on. And really what's happening is it's become more about fame and TV. There's really nothing being brought to the table anymore.
No, the depth of the topic is missing.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's
There's
more about being on stage. Yeah, it's about being on stage and become a mentor and whatever. Like I said, it's the same content being discussed by a different person with a few different words, but they're not really teaching the truth anymore. And after a while, it's just another convention. 20 years ago, when they started some of the spiritual conscious life, whatever, it was hip and it was new age and it was fun. But now, I don't know about you, but like when I go, I feel grungy. I have to get out because I take on so much of this negative energy. And people go, what do you mean it's negative? Well, they're not there yet to see and feel the truth of what's going on with all these people. You got to go through it to get to the other side. And I think that's what you're explaining is happening. And you're really here to do the work.
Yeah. Well, when you talk to somebody, not to change topics or anything,
you have to.
But when you meet somebody who has gone through a whole lot of stuff in their life, who think that they have a curse, what do you say to them?
I have to do an assessment. I ask them to book a session with me for 30, 40, or 60 minutes so I can find out where their parents were from or their grandparents are from and what kind of symptoms they have or what kind of disabilities they're experiencing or what they think might be the curse. And then I can tell whether or not they do. And if they do, I have a candle magic wine called Wicks of Wisdom. And most of the time doing good luck power and harmony power, using oils, herbs, and powders. And there's a petition that goes into the candle. 90% of those curses go away within 3 weeks that they have suffered with for a year to 50 years. And I lift it because it's karmic, it's spiritual. Sometimes I'll do the healing because there's entities stuck on the body or deep within, like I said, the organs or tissues of the person that needs to be released. I can usually tell people what they need or where that next door is to help release it. Generational curses can go back 6, 9, 12 generations. So I'm second generation American. My mother was first generation from her family that was Polish. Okay, so they got here in the 30s. My grandparents and all the relatives were killed in the camps. But before that generation that were killed in Auschwitz, so if my great-grandmother and the 11 aunts and uncles I would have had survived, or I knew them, it could have been my great-grandmother's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather's family that jujued the family, or the ascendants. It might be all the daughters, it might be all the males, it might be both. They all had whatever kind of curse. They would say, well, over the next 16 generations, all the girls in this lineage are going to be blah, 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 blah. And I have seen it. And when I get into like a trance or my readings, I can see where to break it. I can say, oh, it goes back 6 generations and it looks like Romania, it looks like Poland, looks like Russia, looks like the Haiti, whatever, wherever I'm feeling it. And I can learn how, I don't like using the word cut the cord because it's not really cutting, but I can see where the insertion point might be to help free somebody in this incarnation that is suffering, to give them that freedom, like getting out of that coat, to make it fit where they don't feel so restricted in their world, to help them see that there's a new path, that it can be freer. And it takes time. But I don't do it for sensationalism. A lot of people do. And I think that's where you're seeing at the conventions sometimes, the ones that want the TV and the fame, because they do the sensationalism part rather than the spiritual part to get to the truth. Because it looks good. Or it's like when, when Frank Sinatra died in 2007, there was a girl at my radio station who was on the air the day after he died channeling Frank Sinatra. And I knew her because the guy I was with at the time worked at the station. She said, it doesn't work that way. She's lying. She just wanted the sensational moment. Because it takes, and usually 30, 45 days, let the deceased settle. There's a whole new adjustment for that soul to acclimate to the other side, where they're reunited with friends, family, animals, whatever. And until they're calm enough to bring them in, that's different, but not 24 hours when the body's still warm.
I knew a psychic that tried to say that he was channeling Michael Jackson right after Michael Jackson died. And I looked at him and I said, why on earth would there be any connection between you and Michael Jackson?
Good for you. What do you say?
He ignored me.
Because it was sensationalism. And, some people think Michael's still alive. You can't really channel a live person. There's all these different attitudes about what is the truth. I live 10 minutes from the house in Encino. I was at the house when all the people were there for the memorial and lighting candles and all that. But no, it doesn't happen the next day. Spirit doesn't do that. They don't want us to. Once in a very great while, if there's a desperate need, it will happen that you can hear. But they'll also give at least in my experience, give a hint or a message like, give me some time. I'm okay, however, and let it rest. And then people call back 30, 40 days later, Linda, I'm ready. Okay, let's go see. And a lot of people will just open up the channel. With me, I have specific questions I give my client to provide to me. If just say they want Sue, whatever, And it was the grandmother. Well, I ask a few questions, and they provide it to me before I even put it on the calendar, so I have something to work with. So I don't just do party lines. I go find somebody. I get specific details to go find that entity to work with. And most people don't do that. They just open it up. Oh yeah, I've heard it all. They're channeling God and Jesus and Moby Dick and John Lennon.
Janis Joplin, I've heard that
All
too.
of it, yeah. But you know what I believe? This is me. If Janis or John Lennon, let's use John, if he wanted to come through, I would either have to have Yoko, Sean, or anybody else in the family asking Julian, somebody, Paul McCartney, somebody that knew him.
Exactly.
To ask,
There always
because
has opportunity.
I believe, you have to be closely connected. Otherwise, again, it's sensationalism. For me, that's been my experience.
That's for me too. I feel like there has to be some channel to bring that spirit, to give that spirit a reason to come in.
Right. As opposed to just showing off, I can talk to whatever. The problem with us today and today's generation goes back to everybody on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and all the other rumbles, bumbles, and whatever, is that everybody has millions of followers because they believe most of these people are legit. They're not. I had one girl call me for a set of Wicks of Wisdom candles because she bought something on YouTube. Her car blew up and her house burned down. So I said, well, whatever you did is not positive, and whatever you did was not my candles. No, but I would like yours to fix everything. She's been homeless. She lost everything because she bought some, I don't know what she got involved with. I don't want to know. I told her, don't tell me, but there's a way to fix all this. But you can get hurt with the wrong person or the wrong entity or the wrong advice or the wrong professional out there. You got to be careful. Got to be careful.
I do have to ask this. What role does free will play in overcoming or breaking a generational curse, if it does exist?
It does exist. And free will, I have learned in my own life that my will wants to go this way. But what if I just let go and let God kind of thing? I go this way and doors open in a different way, even though I'm fighting. No, I want this, I want that. Or it's like the people who are on stage and they want all the fame and fortune. That's their free will. If they let go and let the universe guide them, they may be in a whole different environment. My will was to do other things. Spiritually, I got led into a different direction. When you start to understand, let go, let God, what the universal messages are, I believe there is fewer complications. Doesn't mean you won't have obstacles. Doesn't mean you won't be broke. Doesn't mean you're not going to be rich and famous. Doesn't mean you're not going to travel, have love, or whatever. But it's in a different sense where there's a more connected feeling when you're doing the will of God, spirit, universe, divine intervention, however you want to define it, whatever this thing is. Dr. Carl Jung is the one who in the early 1990s termed the synchronicity, defined synchronicity when he was on a train one time and watched all the dolphins jump out of the ocean and sink. And he started looking at what synchronicity was. Now on YouTube, everybody thinks they know the answer to synchronicity and they made it up and they're, no. It's been around even since Hippocrates and Socrates. It's not new. Nothing's new, but it's how it's delivered. As far as breaking curses, some people I've worked with are ecstatic that their house is quiet or the activity is gone or they're sleeping better or their family's not hunted or tantalized like they were before my work. Then there's some people that no matter what I do and how much I work with, oh, no, it's still here. No, it's not. Yo, you don't understand. It's like the argument. It's like, go find someone else. If you don't think I'm good enough for helping you, then don't come back. And sometimes it stuns them that I say that. But if you're not benefiting or you're so dramatic that you can't sense the freedom or the release, and you know this for yourself, Seal, not every single reading or mediumship communication is going to be like lightning coming out of the ceiling where, oh my God, you can hear it and see it. It's subtle energy. It's beginning to see how it works. Just like with the poem, God, are you real? Is it thunder? Is it a butterfly? Is it a child being born? What is all this? Get out of the way. And when we stop fighting the flow, that's the opposite of the flow is it can be blocked in free will and opens in the flow in the spiritual world. It's learning for yourself what that free will, spiritual will can be. If I had my life to live over, I would have chosen a totally different career and a path, and I wouldn't have left home at 19 to go to college and why I went to that school. I mean, there are pit stops in my life that if I could do it over, I'd say, oh, I would have gone left instead of right. I would have gone forward instead of backward. We all have that in hindsight. And I cannot remember the philosopher's name because I say this a lot, but he once said life is lived backwards. The older you get, the more you understand, as opposed to when you're coming up, you think you understand, then you go, oops, but you can't fix it. You can change it, but it's inside you, and it's like part of you. Life's a weird trip. It's a big head trip. It really is. It is. It's just, what you do with it. You're here to help. You're here to guide. You're here to give answers. You're here to communicate. You're here to educate, as am I. A lot of people don't really have that innate passion. Ego, edging God out. So when you're in these conventions, there's a lot of ego. You can feel the buzz. But if you're not connecting with it, then something's not right for you. Maybe for them it's okay because they're in that cluster or community and they feed off each other. But every now and then there's one like you and me that kind of stands back and goes, there's something else here. You're on the right path.
Picture.
Yeah.
There's something bigger than this.
Then they get jealous of you. Then they'll start bashing you because they think you're the wrong one, but really you're the one that has the light. And then later they want to follow you.
Well, can you believe that it's been an hour?
No,
that hour
just goes fast.
Just gone, just like that. So first of all, congrats on the award you're about to get. But where can people find you? And can you talk about your candle line a little bit?
Sure. I can be found all over. Dr. Linda Salvin, lindasalvin.com, LindaSalvin, just like it shows on the screen, my name. YouTube, Facebook. I also have a 24-hour radio station of my old shows that are some are 20, 30 years old, playing at drlindaradio.com. It's all on lindasalvin.com. Wicks of Wisdom was born in 1999 when I was on the radio, and I was trained in candle magic. I had tried 2 other people's candles, and they didn't work. I was trying to get the guy I was seeing to open up a little more and be more emotive. And I got introduced to this guy named Michael here in LA, and he gave me some oils and candles and told me what to put on this piece of paper. Well, it started working, and this guy was emoting and giving me so much stuff. It's like, I'll make him stop. I didn't want to hear some of what was opening up, but it worked. So I called the guy back and I said, these work. He goes, of course it does. So he said, let me train you. I said, why would you train me? He goes, because you're on radio. You'll help a lot of people, but you'll buy from me. And here we are 28 years later. And Wicks of Wisdom has been on TV. I paid Kris Jenner $25,000 before she was Keeping Up with the Kardashians. She got the name Keeping Up with the Kardashians from my infomercial. One of my clients who was in the show said to her, it must be hard keeping up with all these Kardashians. And that's where it was born in 2006. She'll never admit it. But they were on TV in 2008. And then my mom died. I took the show off there. It was a hard time. But the candles, I get choked up when I talk about my mom. The candles help remove blocks, obstacles, negativity, get jobs. I had one girl that was homeless that after a couple of years of doing the candles won an Academy Award. I've had people on my website or on YouTube. There's shows I did this summer. 2 girls were both sentenced for 20 years in jail. Both of them got off scot-free after doing a ton of candles. Both lawyers in different states, just different cases, were shocked because they thought they'd at least be in jail for 5 years or on probation. The candles will work. It's based on Kabbalah and Santeria. I have my own formulas. There's oils, 4 bottles of oil come with each set. Then there's petitions, there's herbs, but I don't tell you what to do until you purchase it. But love life, I get people married. I have a formula to break people up that are too afraid to ask for the divorce. I have the legal candles to help you win cases. I have protection. If you feel like you're being invaded or cursed or whatever, the protection. I have harmony power for peace and balance in dysfunctional relationships. It's all there. It's all at lindasalvin.com. If they want information and they see this show at the Gateway, just mention CL or the Gateway, and I'll give them 10% off.
Linda, thank you so much for taking the time to come talk to me tonight.
Sure. My pleasure anytime. And good luck to you. You got a lot of new things happening.
Thank you. You've been listening to the Gateway broadcast live from United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM New Orleans. If you don't know it, I started a new magazine, Erie Expeditions. It's out. I have probably about 15 copies left of the first edition that's been printed. Can you believe it? Thank you for everyone who supported that. There are 15 left. Get them while they last. You can buy them at erieexpeditionsmagazine.com. And again, it was always a pleasure to talk to you guys. Until next time.